And welcome to our Global Internship Workshop, Continuous Professional Development Workshop. Before we go any further, all of us here at Kappa hope that you, your families and friends are keeping well in these unprecedented times, and that we appreciate all the work that you are doing online for the rest of this semester. This presentation is going to outline an assignment that is due on April 1st, which we hope you will enjoy creating. Just a little bit of context or background to the assignment. As you remember, in orientation, you chose your 3 words that described or encapsulated how you felt about starting your internship. And these words marked, in essence, what became the beginning of your internship journey. In class, we watched the TED Talk, The Danger of a Single Story by Chimamanda Adichie. And we explored the dangers of stereotyping. And the 3 credit students wrote a My Single Story assignment, which is based on how you felt others or those in your study abroad location might be perceiving you differently to how you view yourself. In the orientation masterclass, we looked at how maps tell stories. The one here on the left is an ethnocentric map. It is the old Mercator map that many of you would have had in your schools growing up, which shows the world from a particular perspective, or a Eurocentric or ethnocentric perspective. However, here the Arnold Peters map, 1973, shows the world in a different projection, one that is the relative area size of continents, and obviously has a different view of the world here. This is more of an ethno-relative view of the world, and this is something that we reflected on when we did our Julia Middleton reading on intercultural intelligence, or CQ. So what we want to do is think about stories, stories and metaphors, which are very powerful and a fundamental part of our lives. They are integral to the way we communicate ourselves and our identities to the world, as exemplified by the maps on the previous slide. They can be powerful and fundamental to the way we learn and communicate. Stories can therefore be used to facilitate learning, from the simplistic what I did in my holiday for the 5-year-old in elementary school, to the metaphors about organizational histories and individuals. Critically, they help individuals, often in collaboration with others, to reflect on an experience, to make sense of it, to learn from it, and to build on it. Garillo in 2006 identifies a number of functions that stories have. They create an environment. They empower the speaker. They engage others in active listening. They're tools for thinking and problem solving. Stories process information in a creative fashion, and they facilitate learning. So here's our exercise in creative storytelling. So here we're going to draw literally on your experiences. So as we know, during the internship and what we're going through right now is an essential part of the learning process. You need to reflect on what has happened. Reflection is a critical learning tool, and this exercise will help you to think carefully about your experiences. Discuss with class colleagues, and for you to ultimately tell your story. So what are the objectives of this exercise? Well, to create an image which enables you to reflect on your individual and joint experiences, to demonstrate an awareness of specific personal development events, to reflect on the challenges and opportunities of working on a creative collaborative project in a remote setting. And in so doing, we're linking this to the course aims 3, 4, and 5. You've already been divided into very small groups, and we would like you to think about or create an image which incorporates important reflections from each group member about their time on the internship program and in your study abroad locations generally. Most importantly, the image must not contain any words. It should allow you to tell the rest of the group about some important, unusual, challenging experiences you have had. The image can take any form, but the best are usually creative and artistic. However, high quality artwork is not required. Only one symbolic element of your study abroad location can be included. As an example of your image, you may represent the last few weeks as a map, a form of transport, or even a movie poster. But critically, each member of the group must be able to contribute when the stories are being told. And we will have a number of examples at the end of this presentation of previous students' work. So whilst you are asked to reflect on your total range of experiences, the essential core is your internship and the experiential learning within it. As a consequence, your story must include the following: 2 areas of learning which the group agree have been influential and are important, 2 pieces of advice you would give to an incoming intern for the next semester, and 1 piece of advice you would give us at Kappa which would improve your study abroad experience. Be creative, innovative, excuse me, and imaginative, humorous, and ultimately tell your story. So I'm going to skip to previous student examples. Here we have one group displayed an image of a sneaker or a runner. So here's how sneakers as a metaphor for studying abroad can be used. Student says that they arrived and they felt like they stood out like a new pair of sneakers, and that, like sometimes a new pair of sneakers, they were uncomfortable. They said that they had to take their time to get involved with Dublin and break their shoes in. They write, "We wore our shoes to class on the bus and in the train. We eventually became accustomed to Dublin and started to see wear and tear on our shoes, or to put it another way, we started to fit in. But then when looking at our shoes, we could see how we molded into the shoes, such as, for example, wearing it down on one side as we walk on the outside of our feet." So we not only learned in our internship class to have empathy and use the phrase to walk a mile in another's shoes, but as the Chinese add, and importantly, walk a mile in another's shoes to learn the shape of your own feet. We learned what it was like to be ourselves, typo there with a B, look at that, and us as Americans by studying abroad through reflections in this class. Their advice: take your time to fit in and to jump on in and get your feet wet. And of course, I'm giving examples here from Dublin, there is one of a pint of Guinness. So what has a Guinness got to do with a metaphor for internship experiences and living abroad in Dublin? Well, as students say, when you order a pint of Guinness, you have to wait to let it settle for at least a couple of minutes before the glass is filled. And as Americans, we have to learn to wait. And the advice is, it is important to take your time. For Guinness is about taking your time and, most importantly, sharing. Work culture in Ireland is slow, but work gets done, and you can always also share jokes and discuss topics that are usually not discussed in the US workplace. It is more collaborative and less competitive. And in a round, each person takes a turn to buy a drink for everyone. It's a social aspect of Ireland. And after a good pint, some of the Guinness should have stuck to the glass, and like studying abroad, when we have almost finished some of the lessons we learned have stuck with us. Here's one from Kappa London. Excellent piece of work here. Student says, our left hand represents the tea drinking culture in the UK. We were warned but never suspected how deeply rooted it is. Much good work gets done over the cuppa, however. It is culturally symbolic of the nation. Our right hand has a dual purpose. It notices the social context of the workplace and a generally friendly approach of co-workers, more laid back than we expected. But that is not to be mistaken for a lack of hard work. In addition, the pub culture of the UK is very evident in London. We have used some colour to highlight a timesheet, and how we quickly had to adapt to our work-life balance in London. The look on the face picks up 3 words: excitement, surprise, and being anxious. The clothes are about dress codes and how they vary, often matching the culture of the institution. And we do not know why our image might look like Austin Powers. What else can be said? Here are some other examples. We arrived by an American plane and went through a journey. By just looking at this, probably their houses, education, field trips, the cuppa, the clothing, packing, unpacking of what is England, to a tube, the metaphor of the journeys that students took between work, play, education. The London Eye, each pod representing a different aspect of the experience. This is like a game of Monopoly with the background, and here tubes in the different stations or different carriages throughout time. So this is the end of the presentation. There are further details on exactly what you need to do when you need to submit it. But importantly, as well as uploading the Google slide, which is narrated over using something like this, Screencast-O-Matic, or narrating on a Google slide, and we have how-to guides for these. Along with the presentation, each person must submit a separate 1-page document which outlines challenges and opportunities for remote, creative, collaborative work. We know that this kind of task can be difficult when you're living in different states and different time zones. But this is important to learn how to do. We talked about this in terms of the work of Belbin and working in teams. And most of you at future interviews will be asked about experiences of working collaboratively, and the likes of this work we're doing right now, I think, would be a very good example. So thank you for your time and enjoy the project.